My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm Robert. In every episode, we're bringing you faith stories and fishing memories from some amazing members of the fishing community.
So join us as we shed a positive light on all things faith and fishing.
Hey guys, welcome to Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Robert Randolph, and tonight I am flying solo. Cam got called into work, and we didn't want to cancel, and already had a great guest lined up, and so we're just going to roll with it. Let's see, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on. Cam was by himself last week, and but the last couple of weeks, I've done a little bit of fishing, got out a couple times on a local lake, was planning on fishing a local derb on Saturday, and we had a little tropical storm roll through, and it got pushed to Sunday. A lot of the events on the East Coast got pushed from Saturday to Sunday because we had 30-mile-an-hour winds. So didn't fish the CKA event that was it was the Greensboro area lakes. So Sunday we had basketball with my youngest son. So I was locked down on basketball. Didn't get to fish that, but congratulations to everybody in the CKA trail. That was the last event for them. So now all the Bass Nation qualifiers for that event are set. Congratulations to all those guys that qualified for the North Carolina State Bass Nation event that's going to be on Lake Norman. Also, the Central Carolina kayak fishing, all those anglers are set. So those guys will be going over there joining Vinny at Queen City for that showdown. Should be quite an event. I think there's going to be 70 or 80 plus anglers as long as everybody signs up for that. So that'll be a great day on Lake Norman coming up. Like I say, congratulations to all those guys. Really don't have a whole lot going on. All the pro circuits are wrapping up, are already done, except for NPFL. And by the time this comes out, that'll be wrapped up as well. So we're going to go ahead and roll a couple ads, and then we're going to bring our guest in. So here we go.
Few things ruin your day on the water as bad as losing gear. But with the retrieval devices for fishing rods, action cams, bow fishing bows, and more from Save Your Outdoors, you don't have to let dropping your stuff ruin your day because you can get it back. The pressure-sensitive filter keeps water from rain and quick dips in the water out, but it lets water in when your gear goes overboard to release a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back. Go to SaveYourOutdoors.com to learn more and try some for yourself, and use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% on your order. That's SaveYourOutdoors.com and promo code FNFP15.
A huge selection and crazy fast shipping is already enough to turn heads as an online tackle shop, but Omnia Fishing sets themselves apart with their ambassador program. With Omnia, you can send in fishing reports for your local lakes that recommend baits, structure, tactics, and gear. And when another angler takes your advice and purchases something from your report, you get credit for it to spend at Omnia. The best part means that with Omnia Fishing, you can shop by lake and purchase baits and gear that are proven to work where you're fishing. To get started, go to OmniaFishing.com and use promo code FNF15 to save 15% on your first order. All right, guys. Well, tonight we have the pleasure of really what's become one of the faces of kayak bass fishing. He's one of the hosts of KBN, and he's probably the better looking of the two. At least he says so. And so we're going to bring in Jeff Malott. Hey, buddy.
What's up, man? Better looking to the two. I don't have a beard, so maybe they can just see my face. Maybe that's the deal.
Maybe that's it. So introduce yourself to anybody that's been living under a rock. We have a lot of kayak listeners, but we also have a lot of boat anglers as well. Introduce yourself and kind of tell them about Jeff Malott.
Well, man, like I said, I've been kayak fishing now. I've been fishing for as long as I've been married, because when I got married, that was one of the prerequisites that my father-in-law said, hey, if you're going to be in this family, you got to bass fish. So I've been married going on 30 years. And he said, if you're going to be in this family, you got to bass fish. So he taught me to bass fish 30 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. Now, as far as kayak fishing, I started doing that in 2011, 2012. So I've been doing that a decade. I came from the dark times of SD cards and digital cameras, all the way to where we are now with all these apps and big tournaments and all the things we have today. So yeah, that's the short and skinny of it.
Awesome. So really, I guess a little bit, we'll start out with KBN. For those of you guys that may not know, KBN started out as a Facebook group and then grew into a podcast. And I don't know how many downloads you guys have, but I know everybody that kayak bass fishes tries to tune into that weekly to kind of get the skinny on what's going on. You hear about the recaps of the latest national tournaments. So kind of give me a little bit about how that started and how that has grown, and just kind of your thoughts on that and what it's kind of turned into. I know it probably didn't start out as you guys thinking this is going to be how big it is and how much influence you guys would have, but give us a little background on that.
Yeah, KBN, I've said this on other podcasts before. I think most of it is accidental. We didn't set out with the plan to make it anything bigger than what it is. It started as really, I started, if you remember the kayak power rankings for kayak anglers, I did that on a whim with the KBN fan page. Kind of got a lot of traction with that. People were like, what the heck is this? This guy's insane. These rankings don't make any sense. Just a lot of chatter with that. And then from there, we formed the group, and the group formed, the truth of the matter is because Lambert and I and a few other guys were part of the KBF advisory board for a while over there with Chad Hoover and those guys. And we had some thoughts on rules and some of the direction of that tournament organization, and they weren't well received. So we kind of got booted to the side and said, hey, literally, I think the quote was, if you don't like the way we do things, go make your own group. You can have your own opinions. And so that's what we did. We made our own group, and here we are.
Well, it's kind of, it's amazing to me, just, some of the things that people talk about on KBN, and some of it is, a lot of you guys that are newer, you kind of got to know how to take a lot of those posts on there, and everybody likes to get on there and rib each other and have a good time. And then, sometimes you get some newer guys that don't understand that really everybody on there will bend over backwards for each other. But at the same time, we're going to poke each other in the ribs. And, there's been a lot of charity events that you guys have helped out with and great causes. But it just is always amazing to me how much influence you guys have on, and I say you guys, I guess it's the whole group, because it's kind of, it's the open forum where, hey man, this is something that's wrong, and what does everybody else think about it, and how as a kayak bass group, I mean, what's everybody think about it? But it's amazing to me to see kind of the changes, and I'll bring up bass specifically. I feel like you guys have, really put some screws to the bass organization, and some of it was self-inflicted when they came on there maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. But not just that in particular, but I just see the influence you guys have. And is that something you guys really think about on things that, maybe how you comment on posts, and, do you guys realize how much influence you have over this sport?
We've been told that. We don't really consciously think about it. And I think what you said is something key, is the entire group is the deal. It's not Lambert and I or the other moderators. It's the fact that it's an open forum where people can speak their mind. And there's one thing that is unique to our group is we've kind of pigeoned ourselves mostly around tournament talk. Obviously, we interview a lot of tournament winners. We talk a lot of tournament rules, stuff like that on the page and how that moves forward. But I think we're the only large forum like that that's not tied to a organization. You know what I mean? Like every other group it's the Bassmaster group, it's the Hobie group, it's the whatever group, which is awesome. They need those things. Well, we're the only one that's not tied to any of those. Some people think we're tied to one more than the other, but we're not really tied to any of those. And you can kind of speak freely, give your ideas out there. And it does get messy sometimes. It sure enough does. But overall, I think it's a net positive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it took me a little bit. I got into this at really about 2019. So I'm relatively new. And speaking of some of you guys have been around, 10, 15 years doing this. But it took me a little while to figure that out and kind of figure out what the page and stuff was all about. So I guess really, your podcast kind of spun off of that, off of the Facebook page. But you guys have had some great guests on there. I really enjoyed Gerald Swindle was just on there recently. And I mean, that's a great one. If you guys haven't listened to that, anything that he comments on, I mean, he's always got zingers, and that whole podcast was full of them. But what are some of your top guests that you remember having coming on there and be like, man, you got off of there and like, oh man, that was a great podcast, or, I can't believe that person just came on. Go over a few of those.
And if I could, I'll give you a little history on the pod itself first, which was also kind of an accident. I don't know if you guys know of or remember a fellow by the name of Wes Jones. He's still around out in California. He did back when Facebook allowed you to go live. He did I guess it would be a podcast called Kayak Bass Live on Facebook Live only. And he was the only one doing it. Ryan and I had this group and page, and it was actually Shane Williams, Ryan and I. We were like, hey, why don't we do that? We've got a page. We can go live here and there and talk about whatever, and we'll give it a shot. No like plan or business plan or script or anything. We just went live one night, talk about the hot topics with some different rules and things that were happening. It was horrible. The first episode is still on our YouTube channel. It is brutal. I changed my voice like to some weird voice just for the pod. I mean, it was so weird. But we did it, and we didn't do it consistently. But after about a year of hit or miss on messing with that and going, we'd take a month off, then we'd do a couple, then we wouldn't do one for a while. Ryan and I were like, you know what? This thing's got some traction. People like it. Let's start pushing, the pedal to the metal. And we started trying to upgrade our software, figure things out. And, now it's, we're on StreamYard right now. It's so easy as compared to when we got started. So yeah, it just kind of grew from us just throwing something against the wall and see what sticks. And here we still are doing it. I guess it's 5 years later, still doing it. Can't believe it. But yeah, to answer your real question, favorite guest, man, there's been a lot. It's hard to pick 2 or 3 favorites. I'll tell you my favorite, some of my favorite shows. How about that?
That sounds good.
The call-in shows are always one, because all the people that listen to us call in and we get to interact with them. Those are at the top of we only do a couple of those a year, and those are always at the top because you never know what you're going to get from the audience. And those are always a blast. And then another show we did on the rule, when Bass changed all the rules last year, I had Jordan Marshall and Jay Wallen on. Both are great. And we had a huge audience for that. And we went back and forth on some of the rule changes, what we thought they were going to do, what they actually did, a lot of interaction with the people watching. So that was a great one. The funniest one ever probably was a fellow by the name of Josh Smith.
Yeah.
I miss Josh, Dark Waters podcast. I don't know if you guys ever caught any of his. His podcast was fantastic, hilarious. When he came on our show, he did not disappoint. So he's probably the funniest guest we've had on. And then, some of the pros we've had on. GDP, Greg DePalma's been great the couple times we've had him. Swindle was fantastic. So yeah, I'm kind of saying too many things. I think you asked for 2 or 3, but there's been so many good ones, man. We wouldn't be doing it still if it wasn't fun. You know what I mean? It's so much fun that I don't think we'd still be doing it if it wasn't. Yeah.
I mean, I am a consumer of podcasts, and then I was lucky enough that Cam asked me to help host this one. So I was kind of all in on that. So I spend a lot of time going through and listening to, not only, I mean, all fishing podcasts. And I will have to say though that, man, I wish Josh was still doing his, because that was and nobody can replace what he did. I mean, he's just kind of in your face. This is what it is. I'm doing it on this day. And you never knew where that podcast was going to go. And that was a great episode. I think I watched that one or listened to it live. I probably had it playing in the background on YouTube. I'm going to stop, take a break right here. We're going to listen to a couple more ads, and then we got some more questions about a new podcast that you guys just put out on your network. So we'll be right back.
If a fly rod is your weapon of choice, check out Atollas. Their Fly Caddy is the most convenient way to get your favorite flies to the water, or just keep them handy by clipping it to your hat, truck visor, backpack, rod case, or just whatever. You can also bundle it up with flies from independent fly tires that Atollas has teamed up with through their Fly Light project. Choose from bundles specializing in redfish, carp, saltwater, or freshwater. Head over to atollas.co, that's ATOLLAS.co, to get your Fly Caddy today and use promo code FAITHINFISH15 to save 15% on your order. That's faith the letter N, fish the number 15 at checkout for 15% off.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on-the-water courses and demos. And we'll even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check out shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection. So we kind of teased a little bit right before that about a new podcast you guys have that is kind of joining the Kayak Bass Nation network now, if you would, but it's called Road Dogging with Jordan Marshall. So give me a little background on that. And I was telling you kind of off air before we came on, I just listened to the first couple of episodes this week, and man, I'll tell you, I think it's going to be a hit. And I really enjoyed the first couple of episodes of that. But give me a little background on that and kind of how that came about, and go from there.
Well, Jordan has been one of our moderators on the group page almost since the beginning. He's been on there for a long time. He's been part of our weekly chats about how to kind of take care of because believe it or not, we do moderate the page. People think it's a free for all, but we do keep it in the guardrails somewhat. So Jordan's been a help with that. And he's been a friend of mine for a lot of years. He's real good friends with Ryan Lambert. Ryan fashions himself as some sort of a mentor for Jordan, I think. So he's tried to help Jordan along the way with marketing and how to promote your sponsors correctly, things like that, which Ryan's fantastic at. So that's a good mentor to have. But Jordan is always a great guest on our podcast. We've seen him be a great guest on other podcasts. He's got the voice for radio. He's a good talker, good storyteller. So he'd been talking to Ryan about this idea he had to possibly get in the podcast game. So we all three got together, talked about expanding. You called it the Kayak Bass Nation Network, and you're closer than what you think because we're about to do a rebrand because we're adding some more shows, perhaps. I don't want to say too much yet because we don't have some things finished up. To where we have some more shows come in maybe 2024 timeframe. But for now, Jordan wanted to do Road Dogging. He wanted to do bi-weekly episodes, start off recording them, but I think he's going to end up live. But he just wanted to tell his story because for those of you that don't know Jordan, he is a true road dog, a road warrior. That guy fishes 50 tournaments a year. Every weekend he's gone somewhere. He'll decide on a whim, just like last weekend, to drive down to Sam Rayburn and fish the BOS event last minute, cash a check, and drive back home. So he's a true road dog, sleeping in his truck, sleeping in some shady spots. He's met a lot of interesting people. And the idea of that show is to bring some of those stories from the road and some of those interesting people that may not always podium, that you don't always see winning money at tournaments, but they're definitely out there on the road, living that life and having fun experiences. And George just bringing that kind of that flavor to us. So it's been good.
Yeah, if you guys hadn't checked that out, the first couple episodes, I mean, the stories and, we were talking a little bit before, it's a little bit on the longer side, but dang, I mean, I got to the end of it and wished there was another hour of both of those episodes. And it's so entertaining just to hear. And I think the people that are in the sport of kayak bass fishing really are in the sport for what Jordan is talking about. It is these meetups, or you're sitting around a campfire somewhere, or you've shared an Airbnb with somebody, or you guys all met 10 people up after you got done pre-fishing and through cornhole. And it's just all these experiences is what makes kayak bass fishing what it is. And yeah, it's great if you get lucky enough to cash a check and you do well in some tournaments. That's great, but that's not the real reason that most of these people do it. Now, that's the reason that some of the top guys do it and gals do it. But, most of the people that are entering these tournaments, even on the national level, you're going and you're paying the money and you're entering these tournaments so you can have the experience of, hopefully you're getting there a day or two early so you can kind of hang out. And it's really the whole 4-day experience. And, like I said, if you get in the top, or you have a chance to cash a check, that's just, a little bit of icing on the cake. But so if you guys are doing these tournaments and you're signing up and you're paying your money, I'm telling you, this is a podcast that you're going to want to listen to, and it's going to be entertaining for you.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things he's doing is, like I said, we're interviewing a lot of tournament winners. There's other podcasts doing that, but some of these guys that are really good anglers and really good just humans, they don't get the airtime or the publicity that they deserve. And Jordan's kind of bringing that, like the fella he just had on, Marcus Grubbs, that driving from Indiana to fish the Tennessee Bass Nation Trail, really good angler, but you don't really hear his name on the big national podcast or anything. Jim Ware, one of the best guys you'll ever meet out there. His buddy Eric Thomason that he had on his first one, fantastic guy. And they'll pop up on podcasts here and there, but I think it's cool to let the anglers, like you said, that may not be always up there cashing checks or fighting for the national AOYs, get their story out there and get a little love from the community.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it goes back to what you were saying about your call-in show. And what I always enjoy about the call-in show is a lot of times when they call in, they will have StreamYard, or they're able to do it on their phone, and you're able to see somebody's face, and and even if you can't see their face, you can hear them talking, and you see all these people post, and you read their comments, and these people by name, but you don't know their voice and you don't know their face. So it's always fun for me on the call-in shows on KBN is to put voices and put faces with the names that I see in chats and that everybody's commenting on. And that's so cool on those shows. And I think those first 2 episodes that I listened to with Eric and Jim, it's like, I've seen those guys comment on things, and I know their names from KBN, but I never knew really who they were. And to get, a little bit more background on those guys. And then now when they comment on something, you at least know kind of, okay, damn, that dude, okay, I've listened to that, and that dude really knows what he's talking about because he's been doing this for X number of years. Or, you heard the story about when they went to, wherever, Toledo Bend or wherever, and, you get to know some of these people that you've always seen their names on KBN and other forums. But that's one of the things that I really like about it.
Isn't it interesting how different people are from what you think from reading the comments versus them on camera or whatever? Isn't it funny?
It is. And it's that I can't tell you off the top of my head, but there are a few, like I'm sitting there on the KBN, year-end call-in show or summer call-in show, whatever it is. And I'm like, I never would have thought that dude sounded like that, or it's just crazy to me.
You know what I get is everybody says, man, everybody thinks I'm short when they meet me in person off the podcast. That drives me nuts.
So, okay, funny story, because this year I haven't really done a whole lot of national trails. Last year, I made the drive. So we're around Raleigh, so we're East Coast, and
yeah,
I got into some of the local stuff pretty good, and then when 2022 rolled around, I'm sorry, this would have been 20. I don't know. I think it was 22, but
post COVID or pre COVID?
I don't. Well, the first Hobie was at Toledo Bend.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I think that was last year.
Yeah.
So it rolls around, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going and I'm fishing some of these suckers. So I signed up for Toledo Bend, made the 16-hour drive, got there on Wednesday, pre-fished. I remember getting to the captain's meeting, and I saw you and Lambert roll up, and I'm a big guy too. I'm I used to be 6'4". I'm probably 6'3" now, and 250. So I'm about the same size as you guys, but I'm like, damn, both of those dudes are a lot bigger than what you would think. And it is funny to see people in person, especially people that are podcasting or doing YouTube videos. And the same with J2 Country. I was just at an Old Town event, and he's in Fayetteville, so he's only like 40 minutes south of where I'm at. But I've never fished with the guy, but we communicate on Instagram, and I know he's one of your teammates on Old Town, where they did a demo at one of the local lakes, and I fish out of a Bonafide, and I'm like, you know what? The reason I fish out of a Bonafide is because I found a SS 127 on Facebook Marketplace. It was in my budget. I grabbed it. I still have that kayak, and then I liked it so much I upgraded to the P127, which I like the SS better, but I do like to have some pedals every once in a while. But I've never been in an Old Town, so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go support Jay, and Dontrell Sullivan is on the team, and he's local as well. So those guys were doing a demo. I go out there and get in some Old Towns, and I fished before, and then I pedaled over to where they were at. And I had met Dontrell several times, because he fishes a lot of the local stuff that I fish. But then Jay is a little bitty guy, and I'm like, damn, you're smaller. No wonder
looks tall.
He looks tall. I know. Yeah, he looks tall. So it's funny to meet people that are doing, social media, and they look totally different than what you think they're going to.
I always tell people, Ryan and I wouldn't run our mouth so much if we were little.
Yeah, that is helpful. When you're in somewhere, and I find it interesting. There's a group of guys that we fish with at the coast, and there's two of us are pretty big dudes, and three of them are what I call normal sized dudes, and the three normal sized dudes tend to run their mouth a lot more when they got the two big dudes with them,
Oh yeah, but yeah, it like I said, the point of it is it's just funny, getting to, and it's the coolest thing about getting out to tournaments, really. I mean, we all want to win and we compete, but it's meeting all these people that you see their post, you see their comment, you see their video, whatever, but getting to meet them is the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully this next year I'll get back into that. I kind of laid off of it this year, and you know how it is. I got 3 kids. So one is in college, a sophomore. I got a girl that's a senior, runs cross country, does softball, and then my younger son plays every sport under the sun.
Oh yeah,
and so we're carting them around.
Oh yeah, I've been through that phase. My wife and I had our kids so young. I say that we're living our second youth. So they're grown and out of the house. So we're doing our thing, empty nest style.
Yep, I got a couple more years before that, but I am looking a little bit forward to it, and then knowing I'll miss it at the same time. So
oh yeah, for sure you will, but then you'll get used to it. And you said you're out in North Carolina, right? That's where you're at, home base. Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, that's my brother lives in Wilmington, so I've been out that way. Times. I always tell folks that if I didn't live in Arkansas, North Carolina is it. It reminds me a lot the landscape in North Carolina, except you guys have the beach close by and we don't. So
yep. So we got we're about 2 hours from Wilmington, and then you got about maybe 2.5, 3 hours to the mountains in Boone. So you got kind of the best of both worlds. And Wilmington's super nice, and we were lucky enough to get a beach house in Oak Island, which is like maybe 30 minutes south of Wilmington.
Oh yeah.
And so we've been able to do a little bit of inshore fishing this year off the kayak, and I was hoping to get down there and chase some bull reds this fall, but I haven't got to match up, and I'm afraid there's only a couple weeks left of those bull reds running up in the rivers there. But we'll see if I get to do that or not. So another thing we want to talk about is I saw your post this week on your granddaughter Rowan, and that is a kind of an awesome story, and wanted to tie that in kind of with your faith story. But I know that, did a little fundraiser, and I can't remember if it was a tournament. I think it may have been to kind of raise some money for that, but give us a little bit of background for those people who may not have been following that story and the good news that you guys got this week. Yeah, man.
It doesn't seem like it's been that long ago, but it's been about almost 8 months ago now. Rowan was 5 months old. My daughter-in-law and son took my granddaughter, our first granddaughter, to the ER because she had a bruise by her eye. That's, nothing. She didn't act funny, nothing was wrong with her, but she had a little bruise by her eye, wouldn't go away. So they took her to the ER at Children's Hospital here, and they started doing some testing. They thought, what did you do? Did you drop her? What's going on here? They couldn't find. They said, no, we haven't done anything to her. Well, long story short, they did tests all day long, did an ultrasound of her abdomen, did a CT of her abdomen, found a tumor on her adrenal gland. And what started out as this bruise won't go away by her eye turned into she had cancer. I mean, it's the scariest thing you could ever hear for anyone, but especially for a little baby, right? So neuroblastoma, which is a very aggressive cancer, somewhat rare cancer for children. So the whole family, as you can imagine, I mean, I was tore up for weeks. The kids were tore up. We just didn't know what to expect. But here we are yesterday. She got to go to the hospital and ring the bell being cancer-free. She just turned 1 in August. And let me take a deep breath for a second. I just can't believe that. I thought this was going to be a years-long battle, and it still might be. I don't know. But right now, she's cancer-free. Bone marrow tests are clear. All her bone scans are clear. There's no signs of cancer in her body. There's still little remnants of tumor, but they think they've killed it. So in that short time frame, she has gone from, a walnut-sized tumor in this little tiny baby to it being almost gone and being cancer-free. And it feels it feels like a miracle that it happened this fast.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome to hear. And, you hear that as a parent or a grandparent. And I think everybody listening at this point, even the younger guys have had cancer touch their lives, either in your parents or your aunts, uncles, and sometimes it's the younger folks and the kids. But you do think that, your mind just goes to the worst. That's just human nature, and to have an outcome like that, is something that's pretty special. And I'm glad that I'm glad that there are the outcomes like that, because there's so many outcomes that they're not as fortunate. And hopefully it'll give some other people some hope that maybe have just got some news like that it does happen. And I've had it go both ways in my life. I've had it, my father died of melanoma, and that was pretty quick from when he found out to when he passed away. But on the flip side of that, I've had other people that in my life that have had it and are still here today. So, that's always an awesome thing. And we'll just lead right on into, because I think that's such a big part of the cancer talk and beating it and dealing with it is, what about your faith, and kind of tell us your faith story and how you came to believe what you believe in, and fill us in on that.
Yeah. I came to be a Christian back when I was a young teenager, really because of both my grandparents. They my grandmothers specifically. My grandfathers had passed away young, but they kept me in church. They'd always give me a quarter, send me to church to give to the offering plate, that kind of thing, that kind of corny thing. But it was important then. And when I got married, my wife said, "Hey, if we're going to be married, this is important to me as well. So we're going to stay in church. We're going to continue to grow in our faith and with our family. We started having kids young, but that has always been an important part of my life. But I always say it's easy to have faith when things are going good, but when things don't go so good, it's a real gut check. And we've had a few things happen in our life. Everybody does, but this one with little Rowan, you really have to kind of catch yourself and say, hey, why this little baby? Why this little baby? And the only thing you can do is have faith at that moment, because you can't make sense out of that. You can't reason with it. You can't really ask those kind of questions. You just have to have faith that there's a plan. And I'll be honest, as upset as I was, within a few weeks, I just had this real calm, and I kept telling my wife that Rowan has a special plan in this world. There's a purpose for her. She's going to do some special things later in life. And I know the only reason I had that kind of peace is because of God, because of the Lord putting that on me, because, I'd have just fallen apart if it was just me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one great thing about being a Christian is you can have all kinds of things not go your way. And people are dealing with stuff every day, and to have that to go back on and just know that you can put it in the Lord's hands and have a little bit of peace and be able to sleep at night, no matter what's weighing on you, is a great feeling to have. So we'll go back to a little bit of kayak stuff. I had a question written down here. Where do you see the sport of kayak bass fishing in 10 years on the national tournament side? What do you think that landscape looks like in 2033? Well,
I'll be honest with you. I've had a lot of thoughts about this over the last few years, because it's kind of like the stock market. We've seen a big bull run, right? It's been running up fast. But I'm not so sure that in 10 years, it doesn't look a lot like it does right now. I think there's a big thing holding it back, which is the ability to live stream. It's so cost prohibitive to do that in the kayak. I mean, maybe as technology gets cheaper, that can happen, but I don't know how much bigger it can get from here in the next 10 years, to be honest. We may get slightly higher purses, slightly higher turnouts. I don't know. But people keep clamoring for a pro circuit, elite field. I just think we're a little ways from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even, people talk about a pro circuit, but even the boat side is not a true pro sports. They're paying, paying money, to be involved in that. And really pro sports, pro baseball, pro football, those guys are getting paid out the wazoo because you got the TV support and the advertising to support that. But I agree with you as far as the live streaming goes, and being able to put together some product that, can be live streamed on, whether it's TV or whether it's a different platform in 10 years. I think TV may be dead in 10 years, but there's going to be some type of live streaming that carries live sports, because that's the only thing right now that's keeping TV afloat, I feel like, is the live sports.
Oh, if it wasn't for the games, ESPN would be dead. If it wasn't for the actual games, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it. I mean, used to, and even the games, I'll be honest, now I'll sit down and while I know you like Arkansas football, I'm originally from around Nashville, Tennessee, so I follow the Volunteers. And, if the Vols are playing, I'll sit and I'll watch that game. If it's anything else, and I've even gotten that way with the Atlanta Braves for the most part, I will go on YouTube because somebody puts together clips of all the highlights and all the pertinent things that you need to see during that game. And it takes me about 15 minutes to watch that whole game.
I did that with the basketball team last year because they were giving me anxiety every game. I'm like, I'll just watch it after. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. And so, that's something that's awesome that's on YouTube. If you guys are sports fans or whatever and don't have time to sit and watch the whole thing, man, you can just type it in, highlights, UT Vols and whoever.
Whole game in 15 minutes.
Or you can see lowlights against the Vols in Florida last week if you care to relive that.
I'm involved in another, kayak fishing is a niche of a niche, like bass fishing in general is a niche sport. It's not like it's for the masses. I mean, you have to be specifically wanting to do it. I mean, it's not as big as a lot of other quote niche or small sports. I'm involved in another one, which is playing in cornhole tournaments, which sounds goofy, right? Corn throwing beanbags. Well, because of the live coverage they're able to get, because it's easy. You're in a small place, static. You're not moving all over a giant lake. They have in the last 5 years. You talk about growth. I mean, they're on ESPN, CBS.
Oh yeah.
Their live streams on YouTube and Facebook are pulling 1,000, 2,000 people all day long, because of the ability to live stream to their own platforms, to social media, whatever. So that's probably the holdback for kayak fishing and any other sport like that, is to be able to broadcast it somehow.
Yeah, I just don't know how, the whole, you get out on a lake, and these lakes, you even see the pro MLF and the elites, you even see them struggle with coverage on a lot of places these guys are trying to fish, and they have top of the line gear that mesh the signals together, and they're pulling signals from all the carriers to get that, video feed, and they're still struggling with it. So I don't see how some people on plastic boats are going to, like you said, unless the technology really goes leaps and bounds and, helps figure that out, that is a barrier that they have to cross. But I will tell you that those guys piss me off on the damn. I'll watch that on ESPN. I watch the cornhole stuff, and those dudes are making 4 bags out of 4 bags, or on an off day, they're making 3 out of 4. And I'm telling you, those dudes are on that pro circuit, man. They can throw some cornhole. And
it's fun. It is fun, but it's amazing. It's like golfers. They got that technique perfected, and they're good, man. And it doesn't matter. There's 15-year-olds and 70-year-olds out there. Like snipers.
Well, it amazes me because if you start watching it, and if somebody throws a bag short, and I don't know all the terminology. I throw quite a bit of cornhole and used to throw more than I do now. But these guys, they leave a bag short, and then you hear the announcers, well, he's going to do this. He's going to roll this bag over to the right of the hole, and then it's going to touch this bag, and then both of them are going to go in. And dude, it's like he already saw that happen, and the dude goes up there and throws it. It rolls around the right side of the hole, touches the one in the back, and they both go in. And it's just, you don't really even realize that's harder than hitting a damn golf ball on the green, if you ask me.
I've taken it way too serious this last year. I've got a YouTube channel for that and everything, and I've tried to really get serious and playing some tournaments and stuff, and it's way harder than I thought it would be to get elite at it. To me, I've been playing sports my whole life. I thought this will be easy. Give me a month and I'll be throwing these all in. Well, it's not like that.
Yeah,
it's not like that.
Well, I think it's funny to me because we'll go and my son's school just had a cornhole tournament, which is not on the same level as what you're talking about, obviously. But being so close to the beach, there's a lot of guys around here that throw a lot of cornhole. Mm-hmm. And I remember, going to the beach. It's probably been 10 years ago, and seeing somebody throw cornhole like a Frisbee for the first time. Mm-hmm. Like if you go to these pro circuits, or anybody that's throwing cornhole, you throw it like a Frisbee because, yeah, exactly.
Flat.
More of the surface hits the board, and therefore it slows the bag down a whole lot more than, you see people that are just starting out, or they're just holding the corner of the bag, and then they're flipping it up, and it doesn't really work quite as well.
Throwing knuckleballs up there.
Yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, I went and got waxed because these guys have been throwing it Frisbee style forever. And, it's just amazing to watch. And that is interesting because I have been watching it on ESPN some, but I really didn't correlate it to kind of the same niche thing. But it's probably, maybe I'd even say more niche than kayak.
Yeah, but it's way bigger because they've been able to figure out the media side, right? And if we can't go live, I think an organization Jordan, we had Jordan on not long ago and talked about this. If a trail could sustain saying, hey, we're going to send out 100 invitations. We want 100 people to prepay for the year. And this is going to be our trail for the year, 100 people, whether it's pro, not pro, whatever you want to call it, but it's prepaid. So you've got a set field for the year. Well, they might not be able to go live, but maybe even if they could just capture enough footage to make a real TV show out of it, not TV show, but a show for the internet.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That would probably work too, but nobody's even done that. The Hobie does a pretty good job with those Hobie Outdoors shows and stuff, but even beyond that, a real tournament show, kind of like the old school bass shows, the 1 hour breakdowns.
Yeah, I think that would work because really, if I turn cornhole on, I'm not as into it to know if it would have been live or not anyway.
Right.
Like I'm not going to know the result of it. It's not like a football game. Like I won't watch a rerun football game because I already know the outcome of it, but I'm not looking up cornhole scores. Like I just watch that to see these dudes doing things that I can't do with the damn cornhole bag.
Well, it's kind of zen. You just zone out, watch it, relax,
Yeah.
Same thing with fishing. I don't really watch many fishing shows for the idea of just being locked in on it. I'm just watching for the enjoyment, following along with what they're doing, relaxing a little bit. So I think kayak fishing could be cool like that if somebody will figure that side out. But that's not cheap either, to get a real production crew and put that together and edit it right and all that kind of thing.
All right, I got one more question, and then we're going to do the last little advertisements, and then at the end we do a shotgun round of like 10 questions. But
sure,
I've got a question or a thought maybe. And I know you guys have heard this before. I've heard it brought up before, but have you guys ever thought about doing maybe not even a KBN trail, but maybe the year-end tournament where you take the top 10 from any relevant trail? And right now people would say there's only 2 relevant trails, and I probably would tend to agree with that. But you take the top 10 from whatever relevant trail and have a KBN championship. You guys have crossed your mind, talked about it, not interested in it. I know you did some tournament directing back in the day. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to have a championship like that, no, we have not talked about that. I think that's a cool idea. And really that's what the original TOC used to be. I don't know if you're familiar with how that used to be set up. But the original TOC, back before Hobie bought it, basically, and took it over, was the top 5 in the Angler of the Year standings from whether it was a local trail or a national trail. If you were in the top 5, you got the invite. And that was it. And that was the original TOC, which made it a cool event. It was a national event. People from all over the place came, Colorado, from North Carolina, Georgia, wherever. They just came to Lake Fort, threw down to see who the best of the best 5 were. So I love that idea. I'd love to see, like you said, if it was the top 10 from Bass, Hobie, KBF, well, Native doesn't do an AOI, but something like that would be cool. That'd be maybe a good way to capture a show of some sort. I don't know. I think the problem with that is half the people that are in the top 10 in both are the same people.
Oh yeah.
They're the same people, because there's about a dozen or so folks that have the ability to travel full time and do this. And, for that reason, they're talented anglers and they have the time and they're up there in the standings in all those trails. So I don't know. Now, Ryan and I have talked many times about doing a KBN get together, boondoggle style, maybe a tournament involved, but more of a big open jamboree kind of tournament, throwing some cornhole, doing a cookout, having music, just having fun, like a fun type event. We've thrown that idea around for several years now, but nothing's come out of it yet.
I hear you. Well, I think either one of those deals, and maybe with some of the stuff you have coming up in 2024 as KBN continues to grow, maybe that's something in the future that you guys will be able to put together. Let's thank these last couple of sponsors, and then we'll get to the shotgun round and close it out.
If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs has everything you need and more. And it's all eco-friendly and lead-free. With an awesome selection of baits and colors, they've got a variety of techniques covered for you. Finesse jigs, underspins, Nico weights, Ned rigs, and more are all waiting for you at jadesjigs.com. And while you're there, use promo code FNF10 for 10% off your purchase. That's jadesjigs.com and promo code FNF10 for 10% off. Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality, handcrafted lures and has been for 30 years, right here in the U.S. Using all-metal components, Owner and Gamakatsu hooks, and silicone or frog hair skirts, Mr. B is pumping out some awesome spinner baits, jigs, buzz baits, underspins, and more, including some of the most unique bladed jigs on the market. To fill up your tackle box, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, and use promo code FaithAndFishingPod1X10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. That's Faith the letter N, Fish the letter N, P-O-D, so Faith and Fishing Pod, just like our Instagram handle, 1X10.
All right, guys. So we got about, I think, 8 or 9 questions, and I call it shotgun, but it's really not shotgun. We can talk about them and go from there. So, number 1, what's your favorite scripture?
Excuse me. Sorry. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Say, what's your favorite scripture?
Man, that's hard. That's hard to answer. You know?
It is hard to answer, isn't it?
Golly.
Well, let's go to an easier one.
That's supposed to be a shotgun round question.
Let's go to an easier one then. What about your favorite Bible story? That tends to be a little bit easier than the favorite scripture question.
Yeah, I think the prodigal son.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that story.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one. And now we'll get into some easier ones. Your favorite fish to catch. So after it's hooked, not the process of tricking it, but favorite fish to catch.
It's got to be smallies.
Small, yeah, I agree with that. That's a great one. And now you'll see why I worded that. So the next question is the favorite fish to fish for. So we're actually talking about the chess game of making that fish bite. Favorite one.
I like fishing for bedding fish, man.
Yeah.
If that's what you're going for. I know a lot of people don't like that. I think fishing from a kayak is because you're never taking them away from it. So it's not as punitive to the fish, like putting them in a live well and running them away from their beds. I just think the science to that, I know you can get locked in there and sit there and fish for them for an hour and not catch them, but I think it's so cool to play that cat and mouse game with them.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what about favorite fish to eat?
Man, I tell you what, deep fried Spanish and king mackerel.
Oh yeah,
is delicious. And over there on that pier in Riceville Beach is my brother put me on some pier fishing. Those are like the kayak fishermen of the land with all the carts and stuff.
Yeah, man, it's crazy when you go out to some of those piers, and I tell you, they will get on some pretty good fish on those too. I'm part of a couple of Facebook groups that is like, some local Oak Island pier fishing and Oak Island fishing. And you're seeing guys post up stuff off of those piers that are pretty impressive. And, when those Spanish get running and you can catch those on some topwater stuff, man, there's really nothing better.
Excuse me. Golly,
you're good.
Up. What about bad over here?
What about fishing snacks? So when you're out on the water, what are you snacking on?
It's pretty simple. I'm throwing some protein bars or something in the box.
I hear you. Body of water. What's your favorite body of water to fish?
I'm gonna say Lake Fork. I know it's kind of played out, but it's the first big tournament I ever went to was there. It was the home of the original TOC, and I've kind of had a roller coaster relationship with it, but I still love going there.
Yeah. Well, you can't go wrong with that. Favorite lure to throw? If you could just pick one.
I'm throwing a Texas rigger at jig.
Yeah.
Yeah, just flipping something, I like setting the hook like that. I'll tell you what's a close number 2 though, and this will make the old people smile. I love throwing a Carolina rig.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I've heard you say that before somewhere.
I love dragging that stupid thing. I love it. Some people hate it, but it made a little comeback on the pro circuits these last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's something that, if you go back and you find some older lures are the same way. You go back and find some older lures that people don't use anymore, or some older techniques that, people have gone away from. And the Carolina rig is one of those. That's one of those things that when we went to Toledo Bend, and I had never seen so many people, because you're going in, and I got there early that week and pre-fished Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But you go around and if you're getting gas or whatever, and you see these bass boats, everybody's got Carolina rig tied on, and everybody's throwing that at Toledo Bend, and that was pretty neat to see. What about time of year? If you could pick one season, one time of the year to fish, what would it be?
I like fishing for bedding fish, but I actually prefer to fish in the fall. Like I prefer the fall. You don't seem to have as many people out there. People head to those deer woods. I'm not a big hunter, so you get the lake to yourself, the river to yourself. So I like the fall.
So you got that coming up. I know it's probably still hot in Arkansas. I don't know what it is. Yeah. So this is the first week over here that we've had. It's not going to get out of the 70s this week. So this is the first cool week that we've had, and man, I'm looking forward to it. So man, we'll wrap this up, man. And you want to thank any of your sponsors and
no, I want to go back and answer your first question though. I've been thinking about it while we're talking. So I think, and I don't want to mess this up. So you can go check me and make sure I'm quoting this right. But I think it's Proverbs 3:5. Basically all we've been through with rowing is, trust in the Lord. Do not rely on your own understanding. And I'm not getting the entire verse right off memory, but that's the substance of it is trust in the Lord with all your might. Don't rely on your own understanding, because it's not going to take you through any of those tough times. So
yeah, and that's how all my verses are. I can never get anything word for word. I always have it thought in my head how it pertains to me. So that's perfect, and I think that's a perfect example of of the rowing situation. And like I said, I was so glad to see that post, and I don't have any grandkids yet, and hopefully it's going to be a little while for that. But I know as a father of three, how excruciating that just the not knowing and doing the treatments and to be on an infant, and they can't do anything about it. And
it's so bizarre, man, because it's so painful to see your grandchild go through that, but then you're seeing your own child go through the pain of seeing their child. It's a weird feeling, because you're not the parent of that grandchild, but you're the parent of that person in pain. It's kind of a helpless feeling, because you're kind of one level removed from it all, but you want to do everything to fix it. So, I truly thank God for, laying his hand on her and healing her.
Yeah, man. Any sponsors you want to throw out there?
Yeah, man, I've been with Old Town for years and years now, ever since I came out with the Predator PDL back in 2016, I guess, and still going strong with them. So I appreciate all they do for me and for our team. We've got a great team, a couple of them over there in Carolina. Yeah. It's a really good team. They treat the team really well. I think they do a great job promoting the team and just promoting kayak fishing in general. So shout out to Old Town. Of course, all the sponsors of the podcast. I'm on the Dugout Fishing team as well, but they also support the podcast. Appreciate all those guys that do that over there, and anyone that watches or listens to our podcast. We appreciate y'all, because without y'all, it wouldn't be fun, and we wouldn't keep doing it if it wasn't fun. So.
Awesome. And then if people want to find you, I know I've watched some of your YouTube videos, and you got some pretty good takes on some sponsorship deals, and then you post some clips of the KBN stuff on there. Tell people about your YouTube channel and Instagram, anything like that. How can we follow you?
Yeah, you can just find me at my name. It's either Jeff Malott, Malott, or just J Malott Fishing on Instagram. I've got a TikTok that's decent. And I tell you, I haven't really posted any fresh content on YouTube or Instagram, because after the Kentucky Lake BOS tournament, my back was so bad that I had to leave after day one. And I basically have taken the summer off. I haven't been fishing hardly at all since Memorial Day. But fall is here. I've done a bunch of rehab, been to the gym, so I'm about to get back at it and start putting more content over on those channels. But yeah, YouTube, Instagram, got a Facebook page, TikTok, hit that up. And hey, go follow my Cornhole YouTube page too.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be another rabbit hole that all these kayak bass fishermen can go down. But Jeff, man, I sure appreciate your time, and it was a pleasure having you on. And hopefully we'll meet up at one of these events coming up and go from there. Thank you so much, man.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you. Appreciate the invite.
Oh yeah, yes, sir. All right, everybody. So Jeff Malott as awesome ambassador for our sport. and can't thank him enough for coming on. You guys go check out KBN if you haven't. Facebook page has over 16,000 followers. There's always a ton of people on their lives. You can join those lives on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. There's a whole list of places they got that thing streaming to now. But you guys go check that out. I mean, we appreciate you guys joining us on Faith and Fishing. Cam will be back next week, and we're looking forward to bringing you another great episode. And I'm going to close it out with a prayer, and then and then we'll get out of here. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day you've given us. Thank you for the opportunity to reach out and talk about you and talk about some fishing. Thank you for the guest we had on. Thank you for putting your hands on Rowan and helping her out. And hopefully you will continue to comfort the Malott family and Rowan and hold them close to your heart. And please forgive us of our sins. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. So you guys take it easy. We'll see you guys next week. And that's it.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by Cam Steele and Robert Randolph and is sponsored by Savior Outdoors, Jay's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, Atollas, and Omnia Fishing. Don't forget to join the Facebook community, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.